Hello everyone, welcome to the energy of Sagittarius. But you know what? We have an eclipse with this new moon. So I've got some things to share with you at the moment. Let's start with, there's so much going on. There's just so much going on. And I've just chosen a few things that I think might interest you. We've got this solar eclipse on Saturday. Now, if you're living in Victoria, you may well be able to experience it. I don't suggest for 1 minute that you look at it, unless you really want to be blind. From an astrological perspective, Saturn makes a final square to Uranus on the 19th of December, just a few days before Christmas. And this energy continues to drive the dissent within the ranks, and I'm sure you're familiar with lots of that. I've had some recent experiences with people who are experiencing the Uranus opposition in their early 40s, and I'm going to share some of that with you. During the week, the last couple of weeks, I came across this really interesting little clip put out by an American TV presenter suggesting that, you know, since the US went in to save the Afghanis from the dreadful regime from the Taliban, that, you know what, the Australians have a totalitarian regime and perhaps the US military should come in to save us. What do you think? I went to an interesting art gallery opening, so I'm going to share some of that with you because it was a bit different. I'm also talking about yoga teachers and how a qualified yoga teacher is required to maintain their currency with insurance and continued professional training. And finally, you know, breathing is so important, particularly in these times of extraordinary anxiety. And so let's refresh our energies on that. So let's start with the solar eclipse on the 4th of December with the new moon in Sagittarius. And our authority on eclipses, Bernadette Brady, describes this as a joyful family of eclipses. The benefits that appeal in the individual's life can be expected to continue well after the eclipse has passed. Now that's nice after the eclipses we've had in the last 12 or 18 months. This eclipse also brings harmonious connections between Saturn and the sun and moon, giving us the strength to pursue whatever that might be for us, the truth. Sagittarius is about truth, and you are likely to experience this energy in the house where you have Taurus energy. And if you need some information or some guidance on that, I'll be in contact and I'll be able to help you with that. But what a lovely change from the last few eclipse series. The energies around us, as I don't have to tell you, have been so tough and heavy as we are being offered an ascension into the next dimension. So it's tough finishing off what we've got to leave behind. And we are being challenged to find our spiritual connections and release our perceived need for material stuff. And being in Sagittarius, this new moon is seeking truth. With so much misinformation everywhere, most of us are struggling to know what really is happening out there. You know, the mainstream media do not tell you the truth. And if they report events, it's skewed in reporting. And the same could go for the underground media. What is the truth? And I believe the best measure of the truth is within us. What makes sense to you? I'm not a fortune teller, but I do believe that information will be uncovered and is being uncovered, which many people will find shocking and incredible. With Uranus in Taurus, we may even have a significant geophysical event. Let's wait and see. This solar eclipse travels over Antarctica and the tips of South Africa and South America, as well as the southern borders of Australia. And so, as I said before, if you're in Victoria, the eclipse will be visible around 7 o'clock. And I believe it's quite a short eclipse, only a few minutes, but be sure to watch it on TV or through another lens. Please do not look at it. And understand that the effects, the energetic effects of the eclipse can last for up to 6 months after the event. Let's just watch and wait and see. Another significant astrological situation occurs on the 19th of December, where Saturn makes its final square to Uranus in this cycle. And Uranus and Saturn have been doing a dance for the last 18 months, reaching this final square connection on the 19th of December, about a week before Christmas. Uranus represents the people. Saturn represents the systems and programs in place to keep the people controlled. Being the planet furthest out, Uranus energy is likely to prevail. So we can expect more unrest, more rallies, and perhaps some backdowns, maybe from our governments. It may be that some existing governments crumble. And this unsettled energy of the people is supported by the planetoid Eris in Aries, also in square aspect to Pluto. And this is another representation of the people, Eris, resisting the top-down power and control exerted by governments, represented by Pluto. And again, Eris is further out than Pluto and therefore apparently has more strength and influence. So expect unrest, hopefully peaceful, but strong and effective protest. I believe that we will have changes, more changes. This is a moving goalpost. And in all this confusion, what is your guiding light? I've spoken about this before, but in the bigger scheme of global energy shifts, we are in the throes of moving from the Piscean age into the age of Aquarius. In Pisces, which prevailed for just over 2,000 years, the people were trained to find their power outside themselves, somewhere else. We were programmed to rely on the priest, the rabbi, imam, the teacher, the doctor, the government, etc. We willingly gave away our power to others. Who is in control? Now, as we are moving into the energy of Aquarius, the energy shift comes back to each of us. We are responsible for ourselves. It's up to us to research information and use our inner guidance to make our own decisions and keep ourselves healthy and on track. When we are healthy, well, and following our destined path, we are very capable of contributing to our community. And our power is within us. And when we take responsibility for ourselves, we can then be useful members of our communities. It is smart to seek advice from others who have skills that can help us. But these folks are to be considered as advisors or counselors, consultants. And the resulting well-considered decisions are ours. So think on that for a bit. Now, I mentioned in the introduction, transiting Uranus opposite natal Uranus. And most of us, if we reach 45, this will happen to all of us. And I'd like to use my friend Tracy as an astrological example for a life experience, which we all experience in our early 40s. When I met Tracy several years ago, she was a trained occupational therapist, but she was conducting a very successful web-based marketing business. She had not long reached her 40s and was feeling restless and unfulfilled. Quite common experience at this time of life. If you're more than 40, think back to what you did in your early 40s. If you're not there yet, well, this is for you to come. Think about what you might want to change when you get there to fulfill your destiny. So Tracy boldly went forward and stepped out of her marketing business and embraced her muse. She started painting elaborate and bold abstract pieces. Her marketing skills have enabled her to monetize her skills and her art, something many artists crave but fail miserably to achieve. So in just over 6 years, she has made a name for herself and sold her art for very good money, both locally and overseas. And she's feeling fulfilled. This has been a very successful pivot for her. So what about you? I've recently had a few clients in this situation asking for astrological guidance. Now, as you've gathered, I find information in many different places. And recently I watched a short clip from a United States TV presenter who suggested that Australians need military assistance to free us from our totalitarian rulers. The US had gone in to rescue the Afghanis from the Taliban. So why shouldn't they come to rescue us? What do you think? Do you think we're under totalitarian rule? What about you guys who live in Victoria, where I believe legislation has been passed just this week, which allows the Premier extraordinary dictatorial type powers? I went to this art gallery opening last week, and some of you may have attended gallery openings. What happens normally is the artist displays their works in a suitable location, invite a few friends and guests, and you have food and drinks. And the expectation is that some guests will purchase their works of art or lead the artist to other purchasers, thus giving the artist some monetary reward for their work. And last week's opening was an opening with a difference. I had to buy a ticket. Proceeds, I presume after expenses, are going to Destiny Rescue, a charity which removes children from child prostitution and child trafficking. Now, given the current and mostly underground narrative about slavery and child trafficking, I'm very happy to support such an organisation. So I was happy to go along. And I'll give you the reference in the notes. Actually, if you have, you need to look online on my blog, on my website. I will have the references. So on arrival at the event, guests were greeted not only by the artist, but also her helpers, all beautifully painted all over their bodies, with fabric triangles protecting their privates. 2 gorgeous girls and 1 muscular young man. White paint and silver decoration had been deftly applied and produced a very beautiful effect. And these helpers were passing out blue champagne and other delicacies. Other helpers were behaving like circus entertainers. This was an opening with a difference. Tracy proceeded to have several of her displayed paintings auctioned. The auctioneer worked really hard to elicit bids from an interested crowd and sold 4 of the 5 pieces on offer. Now, I've since heard criticism of the agenda for this event. That is not how you manage a gallery opening. Traditionally, guests never pay to attend. And never is there accompanying entertainment. Now, with energies around us changing, why can't we have a gallery opening event like this? Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus is about doing things differently with out there ideas. Taurus definitely governs art as well as jewellery, fabric work, and many other artistic items. What do you think? Would you like to go to a gallery opening like this? I'll give you the Facebook reference for that as well. It's a bit of fun. Okay, something more serious. I did a first aid course this week. And you may not know, but as part of retaining my registration as a yoga teacher with Yoga Australia, I have to refresh my CPR every year, and every 3 years, I have to refresh my first aid. Now, as a child, when I was in the Brownies and then the Girl Guides movement, I've done first aid courses over many, many years. And it's really interesting to observe how treatment protocols have changed over those years. Once upon a time, the recommended treatment for snake bite was to use razor blades to nick where the snake had bitten and apply and then squeeze or suck the poison out. And these days, we apply a pressure bandage on the affected limb, assuming it's the limb and not the torso, and then we keep the limb and the patient as still as possible while transporting them to the nearest hospital. Oh, by the way, I've never had to treat anybody for snake bite, and I think I've seen snakes in the wild. I can count the number of times on the fingers of one hand. You know, you make enough noise and they run away because they're frightened of you. Once upon a time, we had to learn many different ways to apply bandages or create slings to treat fractures. And while some of this would certainly apply if you're out in the bush, these days, the best treatment is to keep the patient comfortable. Call the paramedics. Oh, it's so much easier by comparison. Now, why am I raising this matter? When you take a class from a registered yoga teacher, there are requirements that that teacher be trained and suitably qualified. This is a protection for the student and the teacher. Yet, you know, I have never had a student ask about my qualifications and experience. Have you ever questioned your teacher's credentials? Unfortunately, there are still folk out there who do not see the benefit of paying their yoga teachers as they would any other professional. What's your opinion? Do you have one that you'd like to share? Do you pay your yoga teacher? Do you pay them in money or some other means? And what benefits do you derive from their classes? You know, barter still works. Oh, you come to my class and come cook for me. You come to my class, you supply eggs for this week. You know, you come to my class and, Elvira used to give me lovely baked items. Just depends. Now with yoga, in breathing is very important. And I am delighted to teach yoga at a detox facility here on the coast, which helps folk remove their dependence on drugs and alcohol. And as part of my routine, I teach all students full yoga breathing. That is how to breathe fully and completely into the lungs and how to exhale completely. It's a very powerful technique and one that can be used to control so much in your life. One of these students had arranged for yet another tattoo to be applied to her already decorated body. And she very happily reported to me that the yoga breathing technique I had taught her last week really helped with the discomfort she experienced as she was receiving her most recent tattoo here on her neck. You know, life is full of happy surprises. I never know where the things I teach are going to impact. And if you're interested on refreshing your full yoga breathing technique, there's a short class on my YouTube channel. So apart from the yoga classes I'm teaching on the beach on Tuesdays and Thursdays, check my website, I've been asked to substitute for a teacher who's gone overseas. Her classes are for older folk or women. And so it's a stretching class on a Monday. And on Tuesdays, we do chair yoga. And I'm so delighted to have this opportunity to extend my skill set and help these amazing women maintain mobility. The eldest lady in my chair yoga class is 94. Will you still do yoga when you're 94? But you know what? No matter what your age, move your body or lose your mobility. Now that's all for today's little recording. So enjoy the eclipse. Look forward to better times, because what we imagine in our minds we bring to us. And have a great month until the next recording. And bye for now.